Welcome to SquidPublic. Slay the like button, subscribe for more content, join Patreon for one-shots and other content, as well if you liked the video, leave a comment down below. Thank you for watching. Backstory is critical when considering what to do for your playable character. If you haven't seen my NPC video, even if you're not a DM, check it out. NPCs and playable characters are not the same. NPCs are a lot more rigid and have a much more structured backstory they're probably going to complete because the DM gets to kind of choose their path. As a playable character, you want to build a past, create a why, and then have an open-ended question that you then build upon with your team. So as I said, the biggest question we can answer in a backstory and that we're going to have to put into everything we consider is the why. Why are you here? Why do you do what you do? This backstory can be as in-depth as you want or as shallow as you want, as long as it answers that question adequately enough for you to use that as motivation. The biggest thing to avoid when doing a backstory is creating like 2-3 pages of fun facts and then having it just be fun facts. Oh, I was here for 4 years and these were the names of all the people I met. And the DM goes, cool, can I like use any of them or like do anything? And they're like, well, no, I just made up all that stuff just to create a section of my life that will never come up to, mean anything other than a fun story. It's not really applicable. And if you ever been at a party and someone walked up to you and they like mention a random fact, you're like, oh cool, why do you like to surf? And they go, I don't know, I just want to tell you to surf. You're like, okay, you like the ocean, you like to do anything else, crabbing, fishing? I just wanted to say I like to surf. It gets kind of awkward. And if your character's like that, if you go, I was a shoe cobbler. Well, I was a cobbler. And they go, oh cool, you're a cobbler. What does that mean for us? You go, I made shoes. It's like, wow, it's going to be the same reaction. Thanks for telling us. That helps us with literally nothing. Continue a little further. Let's talk about what you should have in your backstory, at least each element answered, even if it's a yes-no question. We're going to have origin, family, personality, reason to adventure, and the general completeness / mystery of your character. Let's start with origin. It's very, very important to just literally have a basis in the world. Ask your DM, like generically how the world's going to shape up, what's allowed, what's not allowed. So when you're picking your race and your class, where you're from in the world, it's going to have some assumptions based on where you came from. So let's say people from the north tend to be, I don't know, maybe like they're more rugged and they live more primal, and people in the south have better weather and they're more seafaring, they're like a little more noble. If your DM's put in that work and you come from those areas and then you're like the opposite of that, people are going to be like, oh, you're from the north. You're rather elegant for not being from the north. And you go, yeah, sure. You might be like caught off guard without having like backstory for it. So just make sure where your position in the world makes sense with your character. You can go with a mystery past you literally don't remember. It's like part of a condition. Or if you are actually from another like continent, plane of existence, planet, who knows what your setting is, make sure you talk to your DM and be like, hey, I know we all exist on this plane, but I came from this plane somehow. Just work with your DM to figure out how that was even possible. That way when you drop that information, all your players and DM aren't like, is that even possible? Are you bullcrapping me? Like, did you just want to say this to say it? So work with your DM, say like, hey, I want my origin to be in like the plane of fire or something. And then I want to somehow make it to this plane. Not saying it's not possible, just that's one of those really rare scenarios. I'd definitely work with your DM being like, I'm coming from here, and it's going to make for some interesting times and stories. Next we get into family, and family's a fun one. We can go as big as you want or, literally no family. We'll talk about a few more examples later. But family's super important. Usually when a DM's going to pull on something, it's going to be either probably families or mentors or people in the group themselves. So when the DM wants to give you surprises or pull things from your past, it's most likely going to be family, friend, mentor related. So give your DM at least a few options to pull in said creativity. So as I said, you can go as far as you don't have a family. Your family tragically passed away. Your family abandoned you. Your family was normal. Your family was great. You just can't live without your family. You actually have a dependency on them. That really is like maybe the gambit. There's obviously a few scenarios in between there. But you can really see like the spectrum of like zero family to they are my life. So I would recommend at least giving names to everybody, general descriptions of what they did, age, range, birth. You don't have to go like super, super deep. Be like, oh, they have brown hair and blue eyes and love to party. And, unless it's going to be actually important, I wouldn't go that far. If you want to give like one overarching personality trait, saying like they're friendly or something, like They're angry, they're ambitious, they're risk-taking if you really want to go with that extra layer rather than giving a paragraph per each one. If you want to, I'm not saying you can't do that, I'm just saying to create quick and efficient stuff, if you don't want to write pages, you can get away with very niche descriptions, names, and birth order. It doesn't take that hard. Go to a random name generator. If you need to pick them based on cultural or location names, there's a bunch of stuff online that can really help you out with that. And a quick personal example before I move on, because I've been talking about my campaign, well, the one I'm a player in, I'm also DMing one. I really created a family that is mostly, my character really relies on the family for emotional support and direction, and some of the conflict, actually most of the conflict my character has, comes from an aspect of the family, which I will talk about later in this video. There's 5 children, fourth born is my character, so I'm obviously the youngest, and that has ramifications for the in a noble family, so obviously birth order matters. I'm the 3rd son in a noble family, which means obviously I got the crap end of the stick. He's not going to get anything. Then another person in our group has a sister, and I believe that's the only sibling we know about, and has massive daddy issues, we'll put it politely. So it's really interesting that I have a semi-healthy family, and their family is rather distraught, to say it politely. And it makes for a lot of fun interactions, and it pretty much brings out the personality of each character. Even though I really like the person in real life, and we're obviously good friends, there's like funny moments of tension when I'm talking about my family, where they see me and my family have like a sweet moment together. You know, it kind of like makes them go, ugh. Like, can you imagine hugging your brother or like dad like that? They go, ugh, you know, like they don't like it, but it's kind of a funny interaction. It really brings out the characterization and backstories of each of our characters. So that kind of bleeds right into generic personality. Now you can go into personality on a huge level, and that's what I have in the NPC video. But for your character, let's try to stick to like, if you're going to do an accent, make it an easy accent. Once again, I'm going to make a video on voices one day, but also went over this a little bit in the NPC video. Make it something easy, so when you write it down, you know what it is. So for my character, it's a light German accent, and these are some of the things that are my quote-unquote personality. I like to go on walks in the woods. I like my higher class clothing. And when I meet people, I like to give my full name and birth order. It's just something fun. It's 3 things and an accent that like really help define my character. Now there's obviously more stuff to it, but on a superficial level, wearing nice clothes, going on walks in the woods, and introducing myself are not game-breaking and horribly like complex ideas, but they really give personality and life to this character. And the reason why liking nice clothes is considered your backstory, well, once again, I grew up in a noble household, and clothes remind me of home and a good time and structure, so my character likes to wear them and spend money on them. Upper class clothing, or nice clothing in D&D, is worthless. It costs you money and offers no armor, and often does not help you in any roll check. Therefore, all you're doing is chucking money out the window. But it really helps solidify that my character cares about nice clothing, the structure he once had, and he's willing to spend money on it. Next, we have motivation, or why we go on an adventure, and this is the big one, because this, I feel, is often what breaks groups apart, or makes it really difficult. Because people go, well, why should I be in this party? It's like, well, why didn't you make a part of your backstory that really relates to the group? Because that is the ultimate reason why. So when you're creating your character, make sure you have some reason that kind of, keeps the group together, or makes you part of the group. Let's say your campaign is you're all farmers, and your character's like, I don't want to be a farmer at all, and this is dumb, I don't want to be here. And everyone's going to be like, oh, but the premise was we all want to be farmers, and your main reason is you want to go be some hotshot in the city. It doesn't work with the group. So motivations can be really deep. I'm going to give an example, then my personal example. Let's just make it super easy and say your character wants a lot of money. Now, it'd be better if we had a better why for a lot of money other than just the pure want. But let's just go with the pure want of money. Is it you just want to get out of a life you're currently living? Does more money let you do more things? Like, is it a greed thing? Is your character just greedy? Like, they had a normal life, but they go, money means power. Like, they don't have any complex, but they just want money. So what does that do to your decision making, how you handle people? Well, it'd be really interesting. Because all you want is money, you might be more cunning, or maybe people who can't pay you, you don't treat them as nicely, or you don't really care about the morality of a job or what people are doing as long as you get paid what people required you to do in the end. Or maybe, once again, if you want money, but you're coming back to a scenario, and once again, we're going to create a example after this, not just my own personal. Maybe you want to get money to get you out of your impoverished life, or maybe you have a complex, and the more money you get, you kind of fill in that complex, and then one day it all comes down, and then blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? But as I said, you can stick with just the want of money and how that would affect your decisions. You can be, like I said, less moral. You don't care. As long as the job pays well, you walk away happy, right? So my personal example is my father/grandmother sent me to a league that my character never wanted to be a part of, but my purpose of being there is to serve my family. And we already talked about my family is very important to my character. Therefore, there's a conflict. My character does not want to be there, but my family wants me to be there. So I do it for the family, even though personally my character would have never decided this. So his reason to be there is to serve essentially his country, state, and family over his own needs. So this causes a little conflict because he goes, oh, I don't want to be here. When can I, possibly retire? When can I get out of this? This life's just not for me. It's fun. It keeps me in the group. It keeps me actively engaged in the group in the same direction as the group. At the same time, my character goes, man, this is not the life I envisioned. And it creates a lot of fun scenarios. Finally, we get to completeness/mystery. This is very important. Do not write a finished book for your DM. Do not do it. That is for an NPC. DMs need the ability to take the loose ends of your backstory or the vague areas and fill them in for you. It's very tempting when you're writing your backstory to write in, oh, this is how this person felt about me, and this is how this situation ended up, and this is how I got, you want to write 6, 7, 10 other people's stories to completion, but you can't do that because you have to imagine those people as people in real life. You had moments with them, but when you went away from them, they lived their own life. And what did they do while they were living their own life? If you tie everything off, your DM's going to have to essentially go back into your backstory, either introduce people or just tear apart the backstory you had. And you're going to go, hey, I wrote that to completion. Why are you tearing it apart? Because the DM's going to be like, well, that's what you thought happened. The player's going to be like, no, I wrote it that way. That's how it happened. Why are you changing my backstory? And it's going to be this weird, awkward fight if the person's very attached to that portion of their backstory. So give your DM wiggle room. You can write guiding or suggestive thoughts for your DM to maybe pick up on. And once again, a personal example. I wrote down my family. I wrote a little history about my family, where people are ending up, what they're doing. My emotions towards each member, not how they feel about me, not what they do for me, just how I view them. So my DM knows the relation, so they're not surprised. And then all I put down in my backstory was our family has a dark secret that could be catastrophic. It's not allowed in the kingdom. It's not allowed. If an outside noble house was to find out, it would be ruining that level of dark secret. Now, I definitely had a few things in mind when I wrote that, and I might have given out suggestive hints, but by no means do I know what that secret is or if my DM's going to use that portion of the secrets. They could literally just use my family. Well, he could just use my family and just steer me wherever he wants in a direction I wasn't even thinking of. But I'll like it and enjoy it because, once again, you have to think about the NPCs in your backstories as people that are changing the world around you and living a life without you. So when you go, well, I wrote them like this, and wow, they're completely different now. That's what a good DM can do when you give them an adequate backstory with loose ends, and they're going to take those loose ends, tie them together in a different pattern than you weren't expecting, and you're going to go, oh, wow, that was a twist I was not expecting. Remember, you're really not writing a book. You're merely writing a guidelines of how this character started, and your DM and your party are going to help you write the last half of this book, essentially. So do not complete the whole book. Write half of it. Let your party and DM finish the other half, and you're going to have a beautiful creation by the end. So let's tie this all in together now. We're going to give you a full example of not my own personal stuff, but just an example of bam, bam, bam down this checklist. Our person's going to be just a human boy from a major city. He's going to be one of 7 children born in a major city, just in some part that's just, relatively normal, we'll say. So there's no big surprise there. You came from an impoverished family, lots of children. Family is extremely important to you. We got origin done. I already mentioned a lot about family, but we'll mention a little more. So the family, once again, one of 7. We're going to say we're the 3rd or 4th born. We're not the oldest, but we're certainly not the youngest. Mom and dad There was a mom and dad, but they both had to work crazy hours to keep this family going. And we're not going to go too much further other than that. We give mom and dad a name, say they worked hard, didn't have a lot of time for kids. And what happened is, because they didn't have a lot of time for the children because they were working so much, the 7 kids really bonded and helped take care of each other. That's obviously also going to shape how certain siblings view the family and their current situation, which we'll answer in the completed/mystery section. So what are some generic personality stuff we could have? You could be an okay talker. You could be slightly illiterate, because obviously you're not going to be that. So I'm not saying you're going to be stupid. Your character could be intelligent, but maybe they're not up to speed with everyone else. And it's kind of funny because they go, oh, like, I'm smart enough to handle this situation. I just need a little help from someone to help me, like, understand the lingo or what they're saying here. Or maybe you're really good outside of, like, city stuff, in terms of, like, you know, like bookkeeping and reading and all that stuff. But maybe out in the wild, you're more thrifty and savvy because you had to grow up essentially fending for yourself. And some of the views you could have is you could be optimistic because you saw your family of 7 come through it and you're always trying to find ways to save money. So let's say you and your party complete a huge job, you get all this money, your friends, your players, whatever, are all drinking like expensive beer or wine, and you're sitting there sipping on the cheapest beer and you have one. You don't get drunk because morally you're against getting drunk. You just want to keep all your cash possible because you know money can disappear and you're not used to this level of wealth. So what's the reason to go on an adventure? We don't know where we're going, but let's just say they join a group that actually pays a lot of money. Well, to go into dangerous conditions where, you know, face the unnatural, supernatural, whatever, it's going to have a pretty good reason to put your life in danger. Well, the great reason is, you see your mom and dad work so hard. You've been given an opportunity that I could pay enough money to help your family and help yourself get out of a poverty lifestyle. So you're interested in money, but you're also interested in doing good. So you're not going to try to be a terrible person to get money, but at the same time, you're going to be motivated to complete jobs and work in a group no matter the consequences. And now we get to, what's the mystery? What is the DM? What can the DM take from this backstory and be like, all right, grew up in a big family, mom and dad worked a lot, they like to save money, they want to get money. Well, I need a little more. Like, what about your family can I, like, twist and turn? Like, it might be a little too vague. Going a little deeper in depth, we can talk about how dad worked at the lumber mill and he worked really late hours, and mom was a seamstress, but somehow they brought in a little more money and no one really knows where they got it from. And that's all you need to leave it at. Your DM's going to be like, okay, this could be normal. Like, dad could be selling drugs on the side, or mom could sadly, you know, be giving her body away for money. You know, like, it'd be like really hard hitting things like that. Or if you want to obviously go, it's D&D, let's go a little more supernatural. Did they sign a deal with the devil? Did they work with, like, other forces? Were they possessed and they suddenly worked longer hours than they should have been able to physically? Like, is it that kind of twist? You find out later, like, oh gosh, dad made a deal with the devil and now we got to save his soul. Like, that's possible. Or maybe for a few of the older siblings, they were tired of taking care of 4 or 5 kids below them, so they became super ambitious. And that ambition led them to doing crime. And they are part of a crime unit. They are the leader of a small crime unit. Who knows? Maybe your character is paid to go into a town to stop criminal activity in the market. And you go, is that my second oldest sibling? You go, oh crap, it is. Now I have a moral decision. Are you going to throw your sibling in jail? Are you going to kill your sibling? Or are you going to let them terrorize this town because you go, I'm going to help these people by getting more money, but I can't help them if I put them in jail. So by adding that twist, your DM's going to pit your sibling against you, and your sibling's going to, hey, it's like, hey, I'm glad you're making money. I'm making money. This is how we can help the family. So those are just a few things that you could just say ambitious and risk-taking for the older siblings, and your DM could go those routes. You don't know what your older siblings did. You left, and you left the family, have been doing this for a year or two. Who knows what they got themselves into, or who knows what secrets mom and dad were hiding while they're trying to raise 7 kids and make enough money to pay for all of you youngsters. There's always got to be wiggle room for your DM to come back and be like, hey, you remember this? Yeah, that's how they were able to do it. Where, hey, you remember this personality trait of them? Well, it's coming back in a bad way. So allow your DM just enough info for them to just run with whatever story you want. And as a player, allow them to create that story for you, because anything is possible when you don't close it off. So to wrap all this up, your backstory needs to give motivation to why your characters doing what they do. if you can at least always come back to a why, the personality and the decisions should help shape themselves, based with obviously a few other facts. Where you're from really matters as well. Generic personality also helps, and usually your family structure will have some oversight into what you do. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you also like to put in your backstory. Remember, this is a quick, efficient way. By no means is this the answer. If you want to write a 5-page document in depth about everybody, but leave it open at the end, go for it. No one's telling you you can't do it. It's just if you really struggle to write backstories, this should just be line by line, name, characteristic, and move on. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe below.